Subscribe before the truth disappears. The engine ticked as it cooled, shedding its heat into the December night like a confession given too late. Detective Aaron Moore stood with his coat collar turned up against the sleet, one hand on the roof of the silver Camry that sat nose-in along the guardrail like it had simply decided to stop moving. Hazard lights dead. Driver's door closed but unlocked. No skid marks. No obvious struggle. The reservoir on the other side of the barrier breathed mist in slow tides across the two-lane blacktop. A plastic food container lay in the passenger footwell, lid fogged with condensation. A security badge clipped to the visor read, Hart, Lena, Project Accounting. Last seen leaving the office at 6:14, the patrol sergeant said, voice trapped behind his scarf. Never made it home. Husband called it in at 9 when she didn't show. Moore leaned into the car, inhaling the lived-in scent of fabric cleaner and faint coffee. Phone mount on the dash, no phone. Purse, gone. The seat was adjusted for a woman of average height. The steering wheel bore smudged fingerprints, too smeared to be useful. He clicked off his flashlight and watched the weak glow of the instrument panel breathe its sleepy orange. Half a tank of gas, engine still warm. What's the husband like? He asked. Software consultant, name's Ben. Says she's never done anything like this. They canvassed. Nothing. No cameras pointed at that bend in the road. A jogger recalled a car with its hazards on around 7, but thought nothing of it. The night thinned without offering any answers, and by dawn, Moore had already started a mental list that he hated making. Spouse, coworker, random opportunist, wrong turn. He knew which one the family always wanted to cross off first, and how often life refused. By noon, the Hart house sat heavy and quiet in the slate light of winter. A yellow Labrador watched from behind the front window, tail thumping on the sill, as Moore and Ruiz stepped inside. The place smelled like lemon cleaner and laundry, precise and tidy. Framed photos lined the hall, a lakeside wedding, a kitchen renovation, Lena in sunglasses at a hall festival, her hair caught mid-laugh. The dog pressed into Ben's knees as if to keep him from floating off. She texted me at 5:50, Ben said, clutching a coffee he hadn't touched. He was mid-30s, pale in the way of men who'd worked under fluorescent lights too long, handsome in a forgettable way. She said she was leaving soon. She usually calls when she's on the highway because reception drops outside the reservoir, but I called and it went straight to voicemail. I left a message. His mouth trembled. Then I left 5 more. Any fights? Stressors? Moore kept his voice level, his questions soft. A fight? Ben shook his head too quick. No, we were trying. Her mom's been sick. Work's been brutal. But no, nothing that would make her walk away. Ruiz moved through the home with the dog at her heels, gently noting what surfaces were dusted, which drawers were open, the cord draped over a wireless router, the aluminum ladder hung on 2 big screws in the garage. Every house told its own version first. People only corrected it later. At the precinct the next morning, the case desk looked like a puzzle someone had thrown into the air. Cell tower logs from Lena's carrier, security footage from the office lobby showing her walking out with her bag, the beat cops report from the reservoir. A timeline had begun to cliff itself. At 6:14 p.m., she swiped out of the garage. At 6:29, her phone pinged a tower near the highway bend. At 6:34, the line went to voicemail. Nothing since. The voicemail messages were penned in their shortest form. Hey, it's me. Call me back. Lena, I'm worried. Please pick up. Moore had heard thousands of variations and never built a tolerance. He watched texts pull Lena's office inbox and her carrier records while Ruiz ran down coworkers. One of them, project manager, damp-eyed, said Lena had asked HR about maternity leave policies 2 weeks ago and hadn't told anyone else. A friend mentioned a stupid argument about money that would read much worse on paper than it did in life. A neighbor said the Harts had argued about installing a security camera, then never did. At noon, because grief makes people do things detectives can't script, Ben stood up from his chair and said, "I know you're handling it, but I always call around lunch." He put his phone on speaker and dialed Lena's number with hands that made small involuntary tremors. Moore watched the digits appear on the screen even though he'd memorized them last night. The ring was whole and cruel. 1, 2, 3, then a click. "Hi," a woman said. Every head turned. Silence swatted the bullpen. "Lena?" Ben's face had changed in the particular way faces do when hope gets to sprint for 3 seconds. "Lena, are you—" "Hey, it's me. Running late. Traffic on the 15. I'll see you soon, okay? Save me some of the—" The phrase clipped. Restarted. "Save me some of the pasta if you haven't—" "Hey, it's me. Running late. Traffic on the 15. I'll see you soon, okay? Save me some of the—" It wasn't a recording. The inflection bloomed and wavered. The words were spliced but alive, like someone was steering a river. It was Lena's voice, or so close the difference would only matter to someone who'd lived with it. Moore glanced at the glass-walled tech room. 2 analysts were already motioning for a conference bridge, for a trace that would tell them less than anyone wants. "Lena?" Moore said, stepping closer to the phone on the table, pitching his voice warm. "This is Aaron with City PD. We're looking for you. Can you tell us where you are?" A breath, a tiny sound that might have been the inside of a car or someone's hand over a mic. Then, "Aaron with City PD, looking for you. Can you tell us where?" Ben made a noise that had nothing to do with language. "Who is this? What are you doing?" The line popped. The connection buffer hiccuped. On a monitor, the trace splintered into 2 towers lighting up like distant lighthouses, the downtown financial district and a residential block out near the reservoir at the same instant. Ruiz swore under her breath. One signal had a handoff that made sense. The other hung like a mirror refusing to accept the person standing in front of it. The call died. The room exhaled a sound that wasn't quite air. "That wasn't her," Ruiz said, but gently, like she wished it had been and was apologizing to the wish. Ben stared at the phone. "It was her." He put his palm flat beside the screen as if to stabilize it. "Those are her words. She says, 'Save me some of the pasta every Wednesday,' because we did that grocery service." A tech stuck her head out. "Carrier says the call and the voicemail access both initiated from her device ID, SIM unchanged, but her pings are weird, and her voicemail box has been accessed from outside the usual network multiple times in the last 48 hours. Remotely accessed," Moore repeated. "Third-party apps, forwarded credentials, whatever. Could be someone playing back her saved messages through a dialer spoof, but..." The tech gestured at the screen. "There's live noise in there. HVAC, a clink. It's not just playback." Behind glass, the analysts accelerated, fingers flying. Somewhere in the precinct, the coffee machine gave a hollow cough as if to mark how ordinary the world insisted on being. They took Ben to a smaller room because the big room made grief too public. Moore sat across from him with his notebook open and asked the questions that would matter later in court transcripts no one wanted to have to read. Email passwords, 2-factor authentication, Wi-Fi networks. Have you ever jailbroken her phone? Has anyone else had access to her carrier account? Did she ever say she felt followed? Did her work involve anyone who had a reason to watch her this closely? He was already in someone's network. And when they opened the closet opposite the table, everything changed.
The hum of the evidence room was the sound of sleeplessness, fluorescent lights buzzing like an electrical conscience. Detective Aaron Moore stood over the two prepaid phones, now sealed in evidence bags, each tagged with numbers and coordinates. The static from the audio playback still seemed to hang in the air long after the devices had gone quiet. The lab's night tech, a young woman with tattoos curling up her sleeve, adjusted her headphones. "Whoever set this up knew exactly what they were doing," she said. "Each phone reroutes audio through a cloud server, like a mimic. It can pull snippets from voicemail backups and replay them live. Creepy part is, their responses aren't perfect playback. They're modulated, slightly stretched, like someone was trying to match the rhythm of real speech." Moore frowned. "So it's not AI generated?" She shook her head. "No, it's real voice data, but altered. Think someone editing tape with a knife instead of software. It feels handmade." He thought about the femtocell blinking in the rented house, the way the signal had pointed back to Lena's own Wi-Fi, as if the line itself were looping home to feed. Someone had built a ghost out of the infrastructure. Ruiz entered, coffee in one hand, folder in the other. "Got something," she said. "Landlord ID'd the renter, named Samuel Pastor. Works IT at the same firm as Lena. HR confirmed. They overlapped 2 years ago." Moore looked up. "He was at the company?" "Transferred departments. Quiet type, always working late. No priors. And get this, Lena's husband reported a break-in 6 months ago. Nothing stolen, just router cables unplugged. They didn't file insurance, so it never made the system." Moore's pulse ticked. He could have cloned her network credentials. "Exactly." Ruiz dropped a stack of printouts. "We pulled his online purchases, 2 identical prepaid phones, same model as the ones we found. He paid cash at 2 different stores, but the timestamp on the second purchase," she flipped to the receipt, 10 hours after Lena went missing. The thought landed heavy. Someone had bought her digital echo after she vanished, like building a puppet only once the voice was gone. By morning, the search warrant came through. Moore and Ruiz drove to the Blue Craftsman again, now sealed in yellow tape. Crime scene was finishing their sweep. Routers, drives, notes. On the dining table, beneath receipts and discarded cables, they found a small black notebook, meticulous handwriting, each page labeled session log. Dates matched the nights Lena's voicemail had been accessed. Lines of script repeated the same phrases, transcribed versions of her everyday calls. "Running late, traffic on the 15, save me some pasta." Dozens of them. Timed, rehearsed, rewritten. At the bottom of one page, "Voice alignment successful. Emotional latency still too flat. Need real reaction." Ruiz read it out loud, her face tightening. He was trying to recreate her. The same phrase echoed in Moore's head until it didn't sound human anymore. Where is he now? GPS on his work ID badge puts him at a tech expo downtown. Moore did not wait. The convention center was a cathedral of noise and LED glare. Rows of booths hawked cloud analytics and secure data management. And there, among banners promising seamless connectivity, stood Samuel Pastor, thin, pale, 38, wearing the same anonymous polo as every other exhibitor. Moore watched him for a moment before stepping forward. "Samuel Pastor?" The man turned. His eyes didn't flinch, only blinked once, calculated. "Yes?" "Detective Moore, City PD." He flashed his badge. "We need a word." Pastor nodded, serene. "About Lena?" Moore froze. "You know why we're here?" Pastor smiled like someone confessing to a small sin. "I heard the call. You did too, right?" "It worked." "Worked," Ruiz echoed, moving to flank him. She answered. That's all she ever wanted, to be heard. You people treat disappearance like a file format, but I gave her voice back. Moore's knuckles whitened. "You killed her, didn't you?" Pastor's expression didn't change. "She's not dead." "Then where is she?" He looked up at the one-way glass as if someone else might answer. "Check your phone, detective." He hesitated. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number. Against instinct, he answered. "Hey, it's me," Lena's voice said. "Running late. Traffic on the 15." He dropped the phone, the line still alive on speaker. Across the table, Pastor smiled wider. "See? You don't even need her body. The network remembers." Forensics confirmed Pastor's device had triggered outbound calls using spoofed routing through multiple cell towers, including Lena's own number, reactivated via SIM cloning. But the timestamps broke logic again. One of the calls had originated after Pastor was already in custody. "Either he's got an accomplice," Ruiz said, staring at the whiteboard, "or he's automated something." Moore didn't answer. He was watching the waveform on the last recovered voicemail, a short clip retrieved from the cloud minutes after the first arrest. In the static, between Lena's familiar phrases, there was a new sound. Breath. Faint. Trembling. "Please, don't hang up," the voice whispered. Ruiz leaned in. "That's not part of the recordings." "No," Moore said quietly. "That's live." They traced the ping. 30 miles north, an industrial storage park near the reservoir. By the time they arrived, the sky had gone the color of cold steel. Rows of corrugated units stretched into mist. The air smelled like oil and snow. Unit 47's padlock had been cut recently. The metal was clean against the rust. Inside was a folding chair, a plastic table, and a small generator powering racks of networking equipment. At the center sat a familiar phone, Lena's, confirmed by its cracked case and background photo of the lake. Its screen pulsed softly, connected to a call. "Line's open." "Muted, but transmitting," Ruiz said. Moore lifted the phone. "Lena?" The screen brightened. The call timer continued. A voice softer than memory whispered through the static. "Ben, please stop calling me." Moore froze. The message wasn't to him. Ruiz's gaze shot up. "Play that again." He did. The same line. Fainter now. Fading. They looked at each other. "Her husband's still at home?" she asked. Moore nodded slowly, the realization falling like cold water. The phone in his hand began vibrating. An incoming call. From Ben. He answered. No words, just breathing. Then, unmistakably, his own voice replayed. "Lena, where are you?" Ruiz mouthed, "What the hell?" The line crackled once more. Then a click and a final steady tone. From the generator's shadow, the monitor blinked awake, revealing a line of code looping endlessly. Sync successful. Both devices active. And somewhere inside that digital hum of that warehouse, two signals pulsed in perfect unison, one belonging to a missing woman, the other to the man still calling her name.
The phone speaker hissed, then went silent. Moore didn't move. The only sound was the hum of the precinct's air vents and the faint murmur of other detectives down the hall. Ruiz stared at his phone screen, pale. "That came from your number," she said quietly. Moore nodded, unable to look away. His call log now showed two entries, one incoming, one outgoing, identical timestamps looping each other. "Someone's inside our system," he said. "It's mirroring our devices." Ruiz's desk phone rang next. A single tone, steady and low. Caller ID, Lena Hart. She froze. "I'm not answering that." Moore did. "This is Detective Moore?" Static, then a voice. Lena's again, softer, more hesitant. "Ben, I'm home." Moore's stomach dropped. "Lena, this is Detective Moore. Can you hear me? Where are you right now?" A pause, then the same phrase repeated, only slower, almost mechanical. "Ben, I'm home." Ruiz mouthed the words, horror creeping into her face. "He's at the house." They were back in the car within minutes, lights off, driving hard toward the Hart's neighborhood. Dawn was just thinning the fog, turning every window into a mirror. Moore's thoughts spiraled between logic and fear, each turn of the wheel tightening the knot in his chest. "Dispatch," Ruiz radioed. "Units en route to 228 Millbridge. Possible suspect at residence. Advise perimeter." "Copy," the radio replied. "No movement reported. Husband's car still in driveway." When they pulled up, Ben Hart was already outside, barefoot on the porch, shivering, holding his phone in both hands like it might bite. "I didn't call her. It called me. The number, it showed up again, and I heard myself." "Where's the phone now?" Moore asked. "It's in the kitchen." They followed him inside. The house felt hollow, soundless, like a recording studio after a song ends. The dog whined once, low, then disappeared down the hall. On the kitchen counter lay Lena's phone. Same cracked case, same background photo, Lena by the lake, hair blowing into the lens. The screen was awake, a single notification pulsing at the top. Voicemail, 6:34 a.m. "Don't touch it," Ruiz said. Moore hit play on speaker. First came the sound of wind, then Lena's voice, but quieter now, barely there. "Ben, please stop calling." Then another voice joined, whispering underneath her words, syncing perfectly. Ben's own. "I'm not calling." Both voices layered, twisted, fading into digital noise. "Jesus," Ruiz muttered. "That's a live splice. It's using their old messages." Ben sank into a chair, clutching his hair. "I just wanted to hear her voice. I used to replay her voicemails before bed. Then one night, she answered. I thought it was some glitch. She said my name. I kept calling, trying to get her back." Moore's eyes darkened. "You kept calling after the disappearance?" "I didn't hurt her," Ben shot back. "She was gone before I even—" The phone vibrated again. New message, same number. Ruiz reached for it. "Detective Moore." The screen now displayed a single line of text scrolling automatically as if typing itself. "You're listening from the wrong side." The lights flickered once. The house's Wi-Fi router began to blink erratically. Moore's voice was low. He's still connected. Back at the precinct, digital forensics confirmed it. Someone, likely Samuel Pastor, had built a private network between all the devices that had ever connected to Lena's voicemail account. Every time one of them powered on, it reactivated the bridge. "He's looping through old backups," Ellis explained. "Every new device adds another point of entry. Even if we shut down the phones, the network persists. It's living off archived data." "Can we trace him?" Moore asked. "Already tried. The signals bounce through public routers, abandoned servers, even an old storage node tied to—" He stopped. "The Reservoir District." Ruiz exhaled. "He's looping the calls through the same place she vanished." They reached the reservoir just after sunset. The old access road was cordoned off with police tape, their headlights cutting through thick fog. The sound of dripping water echoed like a heartbeat. Moore parked by the rusted guardrail. "Do you hear that?" A faint ring drifted across the water, tinny, rhythmic, almost distant. Ruiz followed the sound, flashlight beam sweeping the reeds. Something metallic glinted near the shore. A submerged phone. Ruiz pulled on gloves, wading into the shallows. She lifted it carefully, mud trailing off the cracked surface. The screen flickered to life. "Incoming call. Detective A. Moore." His own name. "Don't answer," Ruiz said. But the line answered itself. A voice, barely above a whisper, filled the night. "Detective, you found her." Moore gripped the phone. "Where are you, Samuel?" Static. Then, "You keep thinking she's gone, but she's here, in every call you make. She's what the network remembers." Ruiz moved closer. "You killed her!" "No," the voice said. "I just recorded her, and now you're recording yourselves." The line broke into distortion. Moore dropped the phone into an evidence bag, sealing it tight. "We're done talking through ghosts." But even through the plastic, the device kept vibrating, again and again, until the display turned black. 2 weeks later, the official report called it unresolved homicide, suspect deceased. A body had been pulled from a service tunnel near the reservoir. Samuel Pastor, drowned. Laptop recovered nearby, encrypted beyond decryption. But the case didn't end there. On a quiet morning, Ruiz was in her office drafting closure notes when her desk phone rang. Caller ID, unknown internal line. She frowned, answered. "Detective Ruiz?" A beat of silence, then a man's voice, Moore's again, calm and tired. "Hey, it's me, running late, traffic on the 15. Ruiz froze. Her eyes darted to the glass wall. Moore was standing right there,
talking to a uniformed officer, his phone in his pocket. "More?" she whispered into the receiver. His voice on the line changed, flattening. "Don't hang up." Ruiz slammed the phone down. Moore looked over from across the room, confused. "What's wrong?" She couldn't speak. Her phone buzzed again, a new voicemail already waiting. When she played it, the message began in her own voice. "Ruiz, it's me. Don't hang up." The next morning, IT found every precinct phone had received a blank voicemail overnight, file size 4.13 megabytes, time-stamped exactly 6:34 a.m. Inside the file, no voice, no words, just faint breathing. And buried deep in the metadata, one final line of code. Sync complete. Network stable. Calling will resume shortly. They thought the calls had stopped, but at 6:34 a.m. every morning, one phone still rings, and no one wants to answer. If you thought this one was wild, wait for the next. Hit subscribe before the line goes dead.